And here we go, episode 8 of A Dose of Sinsanity. I am GR3. I am with Jamokin and Welshie. And last week we brought in Seth, and we had a ton of positive feedback and discussion that kind of branched off of that podcast. And it was really exciting to read through everything. So we kind of thought, well, let's talk about it on the next week's, right? So here we are. We kind of noticed two main topics in regards to that we're just going to hop into and kind of give our thoughts. So without further ado, let's start with the first topic. So I noticed somebody was saying that raising the price range from the $5 to $10 current to $25 to $30 uh, could be a little steep. And part of that was maybe they wanted to raise it to like 10 to 20 or 15 to 25. And the real main argument of this was that the higher prize pool could lead to more cheating and really inhibit the integrity of the league. What do you guys think about that?
I think it kind of comes with the territory, I guess, right? The more attractive that something is to participate in, the more people want to cheat in. At the same time, the more people also want to participate in it, right? Like higher prize pool means more people are going to want to sign up to play, and because they think they could win, like, oh, we could win up to this money. That sounds dope. We're a decent team. Of course, with the territory does come the idea that people could try to be dishonest. In my mind, I really don't see a reason that people would not be dishonest now if they really wanted to. I don't think pushing the prize pool by an amount is really going to change that. Like, if you're talking about people are now going to think of this as a way of like cheating to make money, the amount of time that you have to invest in Dota and people invest in this league, you could make more just probably doing Uber Eats driving or something like that. I don't think anybody looks at this as a money-making opportunity. That's at least my take.
Yeah, so I'm not I don't quite understand the incentive if we increased it compared to what we have now. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but for the past few seasons, Ali's been donating to the prize pools and increasing them substantially.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think when we won back in 32, it was $100 and some odd dollars, and our buy-in was $5. Now, granted, I think that may have been the first season or the second season it happened, but for the past few seasons, we've realized people are donating to the prize pool. And so right now, you're more incentive than ever to cheat because your risk is only $5. Where if you put $25 down, suddenly you stand to lose more than the $5.
So it could almost work in reverse, is what you're saying.
Compared to what we have right now, yes.
Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense too. And the other thing too is this really isn't going to go straight to prize pool.
No.
So is to bring back what Seth was saying last week. That donation goes to wherever the hell whoever donates says that it's going to go. Basically, what the increased buy-in rather would basically do is give money to other areas of AD2L, whether helping production, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or paying more to admins and things along those lines to really improve the in-game player experience. So in that sense, I do not see a problem with raising. And Welshie also brought up the idea of a step plan. Do you want to kind of like elaborate on that, what you were talking about last week?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me was that, and I think that this is something that we may have we focused on the $25 number really hard in the podcast, and I think that kind of got people really put off. And, there's some respect given to it. If you hear, oh, you play in a league where you pay $5, suddenly the entry fee has just been septupled, right? It's multiplied by 5, and now that's how much it costs. Now, is $25 not a lot of money? Is $25 a lot of money? No, but even still, having your entry fee go up by that much is definitely noticeable. We were more looking at 25 as more, at least in my mind, it sounded like we were going towards it as like kind of a, hey, we can get to here. And, obviously that would mean stepping it up every season for a couple of seasons. So starting next season, it's $10 buy-ins. That's, yeah, you're doubling the amount for entry, but at the same time, it's $10. And then there's 3 seasons a year of this. That's $30 for the year of playing in AD2L for a team. And again, that's spread across, 5 members. Like that's now instead of $1 for every season, now you're paying $2. Like I really don't think anybody is breaking the bank there. And I don't think it's unfair to say that. Not to say that, I understand $5 and that as it gets higher and higher, it becomes a lot more unsustainable. But let's start here. Let's see what people's responses are and if any teams drop out, and we can just kind of approach it and see, what do people feel, and remind people and be very transparent that this about where the money is going. Like, hey guys, we want to up it by 10. This is what our plan is. We want to up the prize pool by this much. We want to pay this much to like our staff, and we want to have about this much for casters. Like, and one of the biggest things that I said that I go back to is Zyori. Like, this goes to like getting cool casters or content or getting like an official trailer made, like cool production stuff, right? Like, as long as they're transparent and they do a step-up process with it to show where the money's going, I think everyone's going to feel that this is just such a great thing for AD2L, honestly.
So I kind of want to lead into another thing somebody said, and that was, what does some can't play due to the price increase? And something to think about is it's not old men like us who have careers and not in school anymore, and minus Jamokins in school, but um, who aren't all that comfortable financially. So one example is a lot of people in this league could still be in high school or in college. And if you look at pot agreed mid laners throughout the season, some of them might be 12. Who knows?
Very
So
true.
it's not like, basically the argument was, would we lose teams because some can't pay their way due to the price increase?
I think this is where we get into the topic of where is that money coming from? Is it coming from an org? Is it coming from the captain of the team? Is the captain getting $5 from every player and putting it forward? I definitely feel like if you didn't have the capacity to pay the $5 individually as a player, you could most likely find a team or an org that would be willing to cover for you. And this is assuming we're at like the $25 prize pool, right?
Yes, correct.
You mean the $25 buy-in?
And so,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Sorry.
yeah, buy-in. Sorry,
Yeah.
not prize pool. $25 buy-in.
Mhm.
So, I don't feel like we'd lose that many teams because, like, if somebody came to me and I wanted them on my team, they were good, and they're like, "Hey, I don't have the $5 though. I'll spot you. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, if we're gonna go win this thing, I don't care anyways. I'll take it out of our prize pool winnings. I'll be confident in you. So I'm not worried about losing teams due to a buy-in increase.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you too, where in most cases, I would imagine there would almost be one person that would be willing to spot a few extra bones if necessary. Um, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 teams that aren't able to play due to it. Um, it would be tough to say, well, sorry, you can't play. But in the same sense, the league, I think, gets more out of it, and maybe try to find a team that would be willing to do that or go through an org like what you were saying. I don't think the risk is all that major by raising the prize pool versus like the reward of what it could provide. We keep saying prize pool, but what I mean is the buy-in.
And that's like my thing is that, okay, for now, like right now, what is AD2L? It's essentially just a tournament. There's not really like oodles of production value around it, right? But they're trying to grow it to be something of that nature. Getting talent in for the finals, and now you're no longer just playing for the prize pool. You're playing for the right to have like Zyori cast you, or say it's down the line, say that it's season 50, suddenly Slacks is casting, suddenly OD Pixel is casting finals of like what's the whatever the new name for
Explorer
Crusader
League.
League is. Yeah, Explorer League. Suddenly all of like we have talent, and now in full honesty, I'm like I'll tell you right now, like I would going back to what I said before about my experience, and I know I keep kind of alluding to it, but I would take any money that I've ever been able to make from the leagues we've won or whatever, and I would give it all away. I'd double it. I'd triple my pay in to me if it means that Zyori is going to cast my games, like, or if I had a chance of it, because that experience is priceless to me. Like a pro Dota caster cast my game. That is what I played for, in full honesty. And I think
But I
that.
do actually want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, after
No,
you.
go ahead.
Oh, I did want to jump in on something. Like for 99% of the players that'll play in AD2L, and like when they make it to the finals, like this is like their biggest Dota event they're ever gonna have. You know, like this is it. And so when you have that big name casting your game or whatever, it just makes the moment that much more special and that much more memorable to you.
Right, and it takes money to do that and to provide in that sort of fashion.
And it makes
I
it more
want
memorable for everyone, right? The whole of the people participating, because a lot of people will tune in then to watch finals. Like I watch grand finals of the leagues that we're in. Do you know what I mean?
right,
Oh, absolutely.
100%. So I want to bring this into kind of the last like argument against this. Um, Obviously, we've talked about this briefly a couple times. Where last season, uh, Rhino kicked like 3, 4, 5 players. And an example that was brought up in feedback was, what if a player gets kicked or is unable to finish a season, and they put in $5 or $10 for their way? How would the reimbursement work for the teams? And Walshy, you had a couple comments on this. So why don't you go ahead and elaborate?
I mean, and this is in reference to us increasing the buy-ins, right? So like now you're talking
Yes,
about
the
not
buy-ins.
$1 a player or $5 a team. Now you're
Right.
talking about $5 a
Imagine like
player.
$5 a player or $10 a player, like as a late fee or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like
So if that was
large
the
payment.
situation, yeah, if you have a situation, in full honesty, the strongest like point that I have to make, and it's probably going to be one that people don't really want to hear, but AD2L does not do per player like sign up costs. They do per team. If you have an issue with one of your players and there's something that's wrong, they can't participate, they can't play, other things of that nature. It's really it's not AD2L's responsibility to make sure that your team to help your player out. I guess is the way I'll put that, because obviously you're replacing them with someone, right? If you have inter-team drama, AD2L isn't involved in that as like an admin standpoint. So why would they be involved in refunding individual players who have complications come up or get kicked from their team? Right?
Right. That would just be, it would be something where
So,
it's the captain's responsibility to deal with that.
Yeah,
It's not the league. They're not going to reimburse $5, $10, whatever that one player is, because you can't figure out how to keep a team together.
exactly.
So, however that is going to work would have to be within the team. And bottom line, it's not the league's problem and it's not their responsibility. And
Yeah,
that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. But I don't necessarily feel like that argument, and once again, I'm pulling this from feedback. Um, I don't feel like that argument really has any value because, for one, I've only heard of somebody or like a team kicking that many players once since season 28.
hmm
And I've maybe heard of kicking one player or one player unable to continue the league because of personal reasons and things like that. I don't really think it's going to be that big of an issue. It's just for those outliers, it's going to have to be dealt with the team. Jamokin, what do you feel on this?
so I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, or at least some things. So first two things. One, um, you should know who your teammates are before you sign up, and like actually get to know these people. If you just throw together a pool of randoms, like anything can happen in teams that I think fall apart uh, more regularly when it's just a bunch of randoms trying to get together, especially when their performance isn't going good. And number two, I think there's some things the league can do to facilitate it in a way that it makes it much easier and gives players more of a sense of confidence that they're going to be able to play.
What would those
So,
be?
I think the first and foremost, the most important thing is who paid. Like, where'd the money actually come? Like, if the org paid, then it's the org say. If they want to shut the team down in the middle of the season, like that's on the guy that paid the bucks, you know. And then if the captain paid, well, then the captain should be allowed paid all, like, let's say 25, because that's just the common example we're using here. But again, it's just an example. If the captain paid all 25, that's his call to, or her call to, remove players. But if each player put $5 in, unless they get kicked from the league by the admins, that player should just be locked onto that roster. It's like ESL qualifiers. Once you start game one, that roster is locked. It can no longer change. There is no stand-ins. Like, obviously they could use stand-ins and stuff, but if that player is able and ready to play in that day, you should have to use your roster, whether you enjoy playing with that player or not. And if that player chooses to quit after paying the $5, then the team can replace him, but the player doesn't get that money back.
And that's
Oh,
kind
I
of the
agree.
yeah, to kind of even expand on that, let's look at like the worst, what I can think of is like the worst case situation in this, right? Which is that, say, exactly like you're saying, right? You sign up with some randos, like, oh, this team needed a 3. We've all agreed to pay $5. You played like 2 games with them, you got along pretty well, you won. So you sign up for league, you're in their league, they're officially on their roster, you pay the $5 to the captain, and they all, like, so did everybody else, and now you've registered as a team. You go into week 1, you have a rough week. Captain comes to you and just tells you, hey man, like, you just didn't do well this game, you're off the team. Like, flat out, right? That's kind of the worst case scenario. And even then you have to look at the situation of like who screwed you over there, right? Did AD2L and the admin team screw you over to where they need to take responsibility, or did your captain screw you over? Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's at the end of the day, it's not AD2L like in that scenario who kicked you. And even then, like Jamokin was saying, if AD2L does kick you for whatever reason, you forfeit that money anyways. And the money's already paid. Now, if your team wants to throw you a couple bones on your way out the door, that's them, and then take $5 or whatever amount of money from another person, then that's their call. But bottom line, it's not AD2L's problem to deal with.
Yeah, and think about the model that would look like, right? So somebody leaves a team, they go to AD2L admins, who then have to somehow refund him the money through either PayPal or Cash App or something.
Well,
Um,
I don't see why anyone's getting a refund ever.
no, this is what I'm saying. Just give me a moment. Like, especially with AD2L. So, like, say AD2L has to then cash them out, and then you have to then tell the team's captain, hey, get us another $5 when you have a new player. I just don't think it's a thing. Like, I just
I
don't see
don't
that as a model. Like, it's
I don't
or
understand where that's coming from though, Welshi.
oh, just simply like, what do people see AD2L doing in this situation? Like, do they see them paying out people?
I'm saying all AD2L has to enforce is if that player individually paid the $5, they get to play, whether the captain wants them to or not. It's not up to the captain at that point. That player paid. I'm not saying refund anything. I don't think anyone should be refunded
No,
Mhm.
unless
we're
they
saying the
leave
same
the tournament
thing.
before.
We're saying the same thing. Is like in the current model of AD2L, that's not the case where it's you're locked in on rosters. And what he's saying is even so, there AD2L has no responsibility to refund you the money in
No.
any way, shape, or form.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
Yeah, in
now
the
we're
current
now
model
we're
and the model that you're talking about, in no way, shape, or form should AD2L ever refund, unless there's an extreme, really weird case that is discussed, and I can't even think of a scenario. Um, but AD2L should never be involved in. While our rosters are fucked because we put together a really shitty team that does not get along, doesn't like each other, or other things happen, it's not the responsibility of AD2L.
Yeah.
Period. So when the talk of should the price raise from the current buy-in to max 25.50? Bottom line, this isn't even a discussion where it doesn't matter if a team kicks somebody. The money's still there, it's still bought. The team is uh paying the cost, not the individual player. They take money from the team, not a certain player, so therefore it doesn't matter what happens to your roster. It's not AD2L's responsibility. Is that a good way to kind of sum it up?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, then let's kind of go into the next real argument. And this, in my opinion, is the big one and something that um, we may be a little bit out of our element because we're going to start talking about centralizing the AD2L Twitch channel and centralizing streams and all that stuff. Uh, and I can call myself a caster because I've casted something once or twice. Would I say that I'm an experienced caster? Not by any means. So what we're about to talk about is going to be a little bit, I think, out of our realm a bit, but I still think it's something good to cover because there are ideas that were taken from some very experienced casters in AD2L, such as Zen and Staged, and really understand the inner working. So we're going to be kind of leaning on a lot of responses from them through this, and then still kind of giving uh, our in between and our thoughts on specific things. Uh, but when it comes to AD2L and centralizing, initially they tried the whole AD2L production Discord. And what ended up happening was, from what I understand, I could be wrong, and I apologize if this is wrong. But talking to Stage, what ended up happening was he kind of just got burnt out. It's a really hard challenge to get the schedule dropped on a Sunday, which now we're getting it a little bit sooner sometimes. But at the time, it was mainly Sunday that the schedule would come out. And then you would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to basically plan for this whole production, make sure that you get a whole panel, a whole crew, basically, and put together this production in 3 to 4 days. And that was a massive, massive challenge for them. So different talks, one of which is, would outsourcing, such as say like Zyori, or even looking at different games of casters, say like Super Smash casters or Rocket League or things like that, and outsourcing, is that an avenue that could potentially be used?
So the outsourcing, I have to kind of feel like is a very hard thing to do. Um, I can't see somebody coming into like Rocket League and CS:GO, right? You understand the basics of what's happening there. Guys driving car to put ball in net, doing flips in the air and shit, like that kind of cool stuff. And CS:GO, he's a shooter. He threw this. He did something else. Um, the thing that I with Dota specifically is that the outsourcing is just because I have the immediate thought on this is that you can't bring somebody just into this game. There's too many things to understand. Oh, that guy's hitting the creep. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, that guy's hitting a creep. Oh, that guy's hitting the creep. Oh, look, that guy's hitting a tower. Oh, that guy's hitting the big creep in the pit.
Well,
Like, yeah.
I is the topic not outsourcing the whole scheduling and the planning of the 3 to 4 days, or is it outsourcing the whole casting?
It would be outsourcing the actual casters, so bringing the individual casters or talent from other games into AD2L in order to work the production.
Oh no, I absolutely agree with Welshie.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think it's
too
really
tough.
something that can be done. Somebody stated that you would possibly need to train them, which it's a hard game, like Welshie was saying. Like, it's a hard game to understand. And we went into that in another podcast of trying to explain this to somebody who's never seen the game before. And to bring somebody in who isn't familiar with Dota, um, it's something really, really difficult to do. And I remember listening to a podcast from Cap, uh, and he was expressing going into like being outsourced into a different mobile game and explaining the challenges of this is just something he doesn't really know. He got to play for like 2 days or something like that. He maybe got to know like a couple different heroes and or champions or whatever you called them in that game. And they're saying like, oh, this like the analyst of it was saying these are the specific uh, characters that are going to be involved in this tournament. So try to understand this a little bit. And it gets to that tournament date, and he doesn't know half of them because it's not. There are a whole bunch of different characters that they said would probably be picked.
On
So
top
go ahead.
on top of that as well, you have to remember that they don't have any pull in the community, right? Like the
Right.
best thing that I was just thinking about this comparison, but it's like having Shaquille O'Neal cast a soccer game. Like Shaquille O'Neal's an incredible celebrity of his own, but nobody knows him in like professional soccer, right?
To be fair, probably a bad person to refer to. I'm pretty sure everyone knows Shaquille O'Neal. I was about to go to a concert where he was going to be DJing to around our area.
I'm more thinking of like the
But
international,
I
like
understand,
football.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to say
I
like nobody in
understand
Brazil
your
knows who
thing.
Shaquille O'Neal. Maybe they do. You know, whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
don't even
but
know
I
this
understand
person.
where you're going with this.
It's
I love Shaq.
Yeah,
So
the point being is that the biggest caster in like say like the one game that I could see doing it with is like League of Legends, right? Or like another MOBA. And even then, that person has no pull in the Dota community necessarily, right? So it's like,
right.
oh, he's really famous in this game, not ours. Like,
Yeah,
You
and you're talking from an amateur basis too. Like what kind of he might bring in a couple, or she might bring in a couple viewers, but really not that much because it's a different game.
Yeah, I think outsourcing from another game is simply not viable. I think what you have to do, because the people that have pull are the people that cast, the DPC games and the majors and TI. Like to get pull and to get people who know and love Dota to come over and watch is you have to pull up. You have to pull from up. You got to pull these major casters and these DPC casters and stuff, because if you pull someone from out of Dota, like sure, some of their fan base might come look at it, but like the casting's gonna be bad, so your regulars aren't gonna be happy.
I'm
And
also one of the
it'll
people that
just be a mess.
yeah, I'm with Jamokin. I'm also one of those people that personally like I know there's people who do follow multiple games and play them. But I'm gonna be real with you. I'm the kind of person that doesn't know jack about any other game on an esports scene besides Dota. I don't know any casters. I don't know any pros. I don't know anything about nobody. So for me personally, there's just zero. There's zero value there for me because I will literally, you tell me who it is. They could be the biggest person like in that game, and I will still look at you and go, "Who?" You know?
It would just be a Joe Smo kind of guy that you just
Yeah.
don't know. So the other idea that kind of came from this was to host games on the AD2L channel on Thursday. And what I mean by this is not like hosting through the AD2L Twitch where somebody twitches and you host whatever. Like, do you know what I mean by that? Where you essentially have like a watch party through your Twitch. That's not what I'm talking here. We'll kind of get to that, but that's not what I'm talking yet.
Hmm.
So let's just say like you have a game, you stream a game on the AD2L Twitch, and you just do this every single Thursday.
Mhm.
Do you guys think that you would need a panel for this um, for every single event? Because I think this kind of gets into the challenge of you're planning your whole production team 3 to 4 days ahead of week, and we talked about how it could be a challenge. Do you think it's worth for every single Thursday to have a panel?
No.
I personally actually enjoy panels. I kind of think they're fun. You get a bunch of different community members as well, and it's just fun to hear people talk shit for a few minutes.
I like that I get to be devil's advocate here. On the other side of it, personally, not that I don't enjoy panels. I don't think you need them. I think that they're great, but I think that what matters is simply having a game on the channel. Like, oh, we can't get a panel, no game this Thursday. Like, or simplify the amount of coordination and learn from the mistakes before of not being able to get everyone on the ball. Okay,
I mean, I think the issue, one of the bigger issues, I would say, is it can't be played on Thursday.
that was something that I was thinking as well. Sorry, but go ahead. You want to expand on that?
Oh, it's just everybody's watching their friends, and you're just gonna have like less pull to the main channel.
Yeah, or
And
they're playing, right? Sorry.
yeah, or they're playing, and I feel like the main purpose of the channel is to try and get a sizable amount of people and get some like traction there, so people will like click into it, and you're just able to have more pull than I don't personally scroll to Dota and go to look at casts that have 8-10 people in them.
Yeah, this is something that just kind of popped into my dome as well, but you would almost need to do it well, not need, but I think it would be better to do it as almost like we look back on Thursday, find a spotlight match, and almost do like a rewatch with the community almost, like on like the Friday night or the Saturday, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea of doing like a recast, and then doing a panel and stuff like that to it. I feel like in a sense you lose a little bit of the excitement, especially because a lot of these guys are doing content of their own or like weekly rankings and things like that. You're probably going to have an idea of how they did. So you're going to lose some excitement unless they're close games. But the other idea, going back to Jamokin, I would agree it would be easier to do it on other days, but you're also going to have the challenge of, let's say it's a Saturday, right? That you're going to want to uh, have this game be played so that you can do this whole panel and all this stuff. You're going to have to reschedule essentially for 10 different people and hope to God that the game that you want to cast, you want to have your basically be streamed. Hopefully, it can be rescheduled. We've had a couple guys come to us in the past that asked, "Hey, we want to do a spotlight stream when this whole thing was starting. Can you guys reschedule your games to Thursday?" And ultimately, we couldn't do it. Or I'm sorry, to Saturday. And ultimately, we couldn't do it. So there is a challenge of the exciting game that you want to cast all of a sudden can't be because you can't get the day of the week that you need.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'd like to
I
sidebar that real quick, Greco. Just I remember us having trouble convincing people that doing a best of 5 starting at 9 p.m. on a Thursday was a problem. Like and why
right,
that was.
right. Um,
Classic.
yeah, it's trying. It's hard enough, and as a captain now, and um, me and Jamokin being a captain, just rescheduling games is really challenging.
Yeah, it's not
Finding
easy.
a time that everyone can do because everyone's schedules are so different. It would be very, very difficult in order to get the game that you want on a different day so that it can have.
Um, so for to get people to play on a day that's not Thursday, we need an incentive. And so to tie it back to what we talked about earlier, is a higher buy-in. You could make that almost like a paid match, where like the winner walks away with $10 or $15 or something.
That's
You know,
really
it,
Mm.
interesting.
it would be proportionate to however high the buy-in is, right?
Like, is
But like
anybody
you could
willing to
try,
reschedule their games for Saturday, and we will pay you to do so? Almost.
and the
Sorry.
winner
The winner.
gets X.
Yeah.
Yeah, the winner.
Well, how
There's
would you
you're
do
paying
that
for it.
with a best of two? You
Mm.
say you get $10, and if
I guess
you
you
won
cut it.
one, you get
Yeah, I
five,
guess you. I
and
guess you
everyone
cut
gets
it.
$1. I don't know. I
You could
This
50.
is
Yeah, you could split
something
it.
that would work maybe better in playoffs where they are best of threes
I mean,
and
maybe part of the reschedule is uh it's a best of 3, and whoever wins the series it gets the 2-0. I know it'd be like some weird offshoot thing, but it's definitely something that could be done. And like it's optional, right? Like the team gets to decide, do both teams agree to these terms? The winner gets $10, but if you lose it's going to be a 2-0 because it's a best of 3.
yeah, it would be interesting to say the least.
You're not forcing teams into it, but I definitely think it'd be a lot of fun cuz
I
like
think there's something there for sure. The
money
idea
matches
I
are
think
fun.
is good. It would be
Yeah.
that that would be something that I would be interested in coming back on another week of the podcast and actually breaking that down and talking.
Next time on Pot of Sins.
Not first off, we're Dose of Sinsanity.
Next time on Dose of Sinsanity.
Also, I'm not Pot of Sins. I'm just Jamokin.
You're a sister team and you know it.
No, the P is not for Pot of Sins.
Anyways, so another thing brought up was if burnout would be a problem with doing this every single Thursday. We already know that burnout was the cause of the AD2L production Discord and all that stuff. The original idea of this whole thing, burnout was the reason that this whole thing just kind of collapsed. So I almost think that if you do this each and every week, it's a lot of work for people who are not getting paid. And once again, we'll kind of get into the payment section in a bit, but it's free labor. And a lot of them are trying to play their own games and practice with their own teams. My concern as well, and I agree with the person who said this, burnout would be a big issue to make this crash and burn immediately. Would you guys agree?
I really think this is solved if you just don't make it like a whole panel and production ultra thing. Like if it doesn't need to be that is my thing. Like if you just have a dude who just loves Dota, who's willing to cast the game with maybe a buddy, like that's enough for me to enjoy the stream. I don't need the full production value as a person who watches this. I'm not watching it like it's 82, sorry, like it's TI. I just want to be able to watch a really good game and have some caster who's decent quality, who at least has some knowledge of casting, right? Like,
yeah, I would agree.
That's my opinion. Take the 7 extra people out of it and just have the 2 people who know what they're doing, who have decent quality, like Zen or Staged, and just let them do their thing. Does not need to be complicated to the point of a panel. That's my opinion. For these money matches, right, that we're talking about on like a Saturday.
Well, even just in general, because that's kind of what we're talking about just in general. The other option that somebody brought up was AD2L actually hosting. So this referring to AD2L streams, hosts another caster through their stream. So let's just say like Licky the Cow, the
Licky the Cow, caster,
the OD Pixel of AD2L, the Licky the Cow, only cast grand finals. You know what I mean?
Only cast grand finals.
Let's say that AD2L hosts him casting on his stream. And that would be another option. My personal feeling is, would this actually pull people into the AD2L channel? Like, why would somebody not watch on Licky's cast, but watch an AD2L instead? Like, through their Twitch?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Is I don't see how it helps the AD2L channel grow. And so I think at the end of the day, like this is kind of what this whole topic, at least for me, kind of centrals around, is how do we make the AD2L Twitch channel and like the community like prosper and like a fun place to hang out, right?
Right.
And so there's 2 ways to do it. There's the holistic idea where everybody just loves doing charity, and so we all do it for the common good of AD2L, which there's a lot of it in the AD2L community, I will admit. And then there's incentivizing people through money. And so I don't see how hosting people is going to help what I believe is the end goal, or the objective, I should say.
And the objective, like you're saying, is to increase the viewership and create this as the channel, like the centralized location, or basically the hotspot of the league.
Like I don't click Rusty Shackelford's stream expecting to get quality content. There's
probably
like a hungry Phoenix there. Yeah, there's probably like a hungry Phoenix there and some other plinks, and it's just nah, you know. I want to click the AD2L channel and get, you know, some of the.
I might find your wild Jamokin in there. I want no part of that.
Yeah, Rusty Shackelford.
Now you gotta give it that you're correct to say that they can't be just they can't be hosting just anyone. But to me, more what's the word for it? Like same thing with YouTube, same thing with Twitch, right? More time on live or more videos uploaded, the more people that you kind of build up. Like the more time the channel spends online and live, even if it is hosting or however they can make that work, a channel, the better off it is. Because to me, something that is forgotten is that who has the most casters, like Contender League, whatever their new name is, like Champion League, and like maybe the Conquerors in between. There's a whole slew of people in the lower ends of the tournaments who don't have that many casters, who don't get cast very often, who I think like if you put something up on like a Thursday or any day that it can be up and they just have a place they can watch it, I think it would be attractive. And even beyond that, man, I just scroll through the Dota 2 Twitch category and look at like the 1 to 2 channel streamers all the time just because I want to catch who's down there and see what's going on in the, one viewer land. I think more time up period is always good. Like, even if it is with like maybe just hosting,
I think in conjunction to actually having its own cast, it would be good, like just hosting on the side. But if its main point was to host the casters, I personally believe that it is kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, and that was going to lead me into the next thing I was going to say is what about the idea of there's going to be downtime, right? What about the idea of during the cast you host, say, the Licky the Cow, but in between you have your own panel on AD2L Discord, or sorry, Twitch. Would that be something that would make it maybe a little bit more, like look a little bit better or sound a little bit better?
Oh, well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I want you to weigh in on this because I don't have an opinion.
I think if it was executed properly, I think it would be a pretty good idea. But like right now, sitting about it, I can't kind of see how it would work well. I could just see it kind of just being forced in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Seconded.
Yeah, it was just something that was kind of brought up, and it was an interesting point through the feedback channel that I kind of want to elaborate on. But here's something I thought was a really good idea. So in announcements, you basically put game of the week, and you post in, or once again in the AD2L server, so and so. We'll say this week we have Plot of the CDA versus Pot of Sloth. Game of the week. Going to be hosted by, I think word was Zen is going to be hosting that. And then you put that on the announcements. And that brings more people into the Zen stream. Like he doesn't have a lot anyways. Is that something where it would be a good idea of saying kind of advertisement for that game of the week? I don't know if that really would move people into the AD2L Twitch. But then there's also the idea of asking Seizen if he would be willing to go and cast on the AD2L official channel for that game of the week.
That's
What do you guys think of that?
Well, that's something that I've also kind of considered as well, right? Is that you have to have basically a VIP list of of casters who have access to the AD2L like Twitch. You know what I mean?
I love that thought. Hold it because that's our next topic.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So, I just want to point out something real quick. Zen is casting actually a recast right now. Not that it's going to matter when this goes live. But B, be careful if you go to a Zen com stream. He will extort you for money to talk and cast in funny voices. Don't fall for the trap. I did it.
The Mickey Mouse, I remember that.
Oh, the Mickey Mouse.
I mean,
the Mickey Mouse is worth it. Give the subs for Mickey Mouse.
It was
the
pretty
Kermit
good.
the Frog, cut that one. No.
And it was for charity, so that was pretty good too.
Good times.
I mean, I think
but
Sorry, to touch on what you were saying though, like I agree with you. I think that it would be a good idea to just have general ideas of what matches are people interested in, right? Like, you shouldn't just make it any match whatsoever. Like, have some interest in who is the people are interested in right now. Like, does people care to watch Pot of Sins versus Pot of Acedia? Like, for the amount of like crap Pot of Wrath, which is now AMHLC this season, like, you know, that like their one talks, like, does everyone want to see him back it
Washed.
up?
Yeah,
You know?
I
and
don't know.
that
I
would
don't know
go
who their one is,
into
but he sounds washed.
He is
that
washed.
would go into an idea that somebody posted of putting a vote, a community vote each week on what the, and I love this idea. I'm actually really excited to talk about it.
Hmm.
But putting a community vote to what the play of the week would actually be. And then within that,
Game of the
you
week or
do
play
a
of the week?
different a game of the week.
Gotcha.
And within that, doing a different league/division each week. So for example, like week 1 would be Explorer, and then week 6 would be Champions. And you work your way up. 6 divisions, 6 leagues, whatever, and 6 different casts throughout each week. And we'll say week 1, we put the matchups and say Explore League, what's the community vote? What's the game of the week? You do that. You maybe grab a caster from who consistently does Explorer League casts, or if there isn't somebody who's willing to do that from that, grab somebody else and then go into and have them cast on the AD2L stream for the play of the or for the game of the week. Would that be something that you guys think would be a decent idea? Because I think it's freaking awesome.
I agree. Like, I think that it's otherwise you're never going to get anybody voting for the leagues that are like down and out, right? If it's a vote every week for like just open anyone, it's gonna be contender every time, bud, because that's where they're at.
Well,
right?
it would have been
Yeah, they
with
split
the
it.
old
Fair.
league system. They
Mhm.
split, and so most of the leagues are like that 16 to 14 kind of 12 team
Yeah,
section.
every
Like
league
Explorer
deserves.
would be the smallest, I think, at 10
Yeah.
if memory serves me right.
Every league deserves an opportunity. That's my opinion. So I think that personally, like, we should do exactly like you're saying there. And I even think like maybe the next season, like, you can switch it up. Maybe now it goes the other direction, right? Star champion, go all the way to the end bracket of whatever it is, the lowest tier, right? So you could do it different ways if you wanted to. You don't have to. But ultimately, I
Right.
think you're right. Like, hey guys, it's it's Conqueror's week to shine. Who you want to see? You know, anything that's community input, I think, is just important. And I think the more involved AD2L gets the community in anything, the better off the whole community is. Like, it's strong right now with almost no incentive. And now if we just like start involving the community even more, we get super close even more so, right?
Well, I want to disclose this was not my idea first off, and I don't want to take credit for that. This was somebody Lord, I forget who. I read through so many messages.
That's
Oh,
your
yeah,
idea now,
was
bro.
disclaimer.
It's your
posted.
idea.
This was
It's your idea
posted
now, man.
in feedback, and I thought it was a phenomenal idea, so I wanted to bring that up. But I love the idea of getting the community involved, voting on which game they want to see, and then bringing a caster in. But with them, do you think that the league needs to pay for the caster to do it? Because they're actually like, for example, we'll take Zen because he does have a large following. Um, in order to get Zen off of his stream and onto the AD2L, is that something where they would have to pay? AD2L should pay him for. I'm not going to say whether or not Zen would say yes or no to it because I'm not him. But is this something that AD2L should feel like they need to pay him a little bit of money, say $15 or maybe a little bit more, in order to do this? Or can the league rely on essentially free or volunteer labor? Quote unquote.
I'm gonna piss off Zen here, but I'm gonna say that I has to be considered like maybe it's a little bit of money, but every single time that you're paying one of the streamers, if it's not as long if it's $5 like per week, I don't think it's an issue. Like you gift them a single sub or something like that. But if I think you're talking like $15 over the course of 6 weeks, that's it's like I think
Well,
like
it wouldn't be him
$85.
it wouldn't just be him doing
No,
it.
fair.
It would be like so Zen covers most of Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would do, say, the Champions League one,
Mm.
or like Fennec or something like that, are
Oh.
people who usually cover that.
Mm-hmm.
And then say like Licky's done, I could be wrong about this, but a decent amount of Conquer League, so put Licky in that one,
Okay.
and so on and so forth beyond, like behind. So you get one caster
Mm-hmm.
for each league, and then throw them a couple bones, which going back to our first one of raising the buy-in price
Which is where that has to come
would
from, right?
would
Yeah.
pay for that, and that would go to it. Um, so and give them a couple bones to get off of their stream and leave the ability for them to get more followers and bring them onto the AD2L stream, which in turn someone could be watching it. Like for example, I love listening to Finnick. I don't know how long he's been in the league, but
Fun
he's,
caster.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh my god, it is an absolute blast to listen to him.
If you
And
bring
if you're
good,
not right,
yeah, sorry.
if you've never heard Finnick before and you're just tune in for the game of the week, he's also going to get something out of it, where people who've never listened to his casts are going to start listening because he is funny, he is exciting, and it's something that he can get a bit for, AD2L can benefit for, and a couple bones to get him off his cast. It's beneficial that essentially free advertisement, I shouldn't say free, but essentially some advertisement for himself as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate argument, right? Is I hate to say this because it sounds like such a dick thing, but it's the free advertising kind of thing. Like you're getting paid in exposure, which means nothing to a lot of people, and I don't think it's an unfair thing to feel. I I think that paying them is something that is definitely viable when you bring up the comment of raising the price, the buy-in. God, I'm doing it now.
It's funny how this all ties back to that.
Yeah, isn't it? But
Which is why we did it first.
the only thing that I would say is that if you're going to be putting these money wag matches now, then people have to bring production quality to meet a standard. Like I just don't want somebody eating their Nokia microphone and like just all I can hear is them breathing for the whole match, right? Like there has to be a little bit of production quality expected when it comes to that. Now I'm not talking like staged quality because he is. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. He's gold standard and always will be to me. But
Here's your first.
he was.
I
He honestly, if you don't meet that standard of like at least a little bit of like, it doesn't have to be like cutting cameras and transitions and shit, but your microphone has to not suck and you have to at least like be decently involved, like decent energy. Then
and your co-caster can't be shit.
yeah, and your co-caster can't be shit. Then in that case, like absolutely, I think that paying people to motivate them to have a quality stream, and on top of that as well to do these matches of the week and to put some effort behind them, I think is a great idea, right? It's end of the day, it's motivation for them to do better casting.
So I actually do have a comment to make. Do you guys watch some of the streams and you're like, why are both of the casters trying to do play-by-play?
Is this a comment or a question?
This is actually a question and a comment.
It's a rhetorical comment question.
Yes. Now
Well,
speak.
now it's rhetorical. I don't know if I'm supposed to speak to rhetorical. I'm a little confused by what we're supposed to be doing here. But in all seriousness, though, yeah, that is a problem, and that kind of moves into the next part as well. Is the idea of trusted casters, um, and like seeing people who've been casting for a while and don't have confusing streams. Their quality is good. They don't have two people doing play by play. They have a play by play and a color slash analyst. And everyone, like each person knows their job. They do well. They don't talk over each other during the cast. If, say, a fight's going on, you got the play by play person going, and the other person will immediately stop talking. If there is no fight, then the analyst has the room basically. Um, but that would go into identifying trusted casters and using them as well to boost the visibility and bring their viewers over to that AD2L, right? So, with that being said, I want to talk about who would actually get the stream keys because that's kind of something important, right? Is you have to give these casters the stream keys in order to cast on the AD2L Twitch. and that's probably something you want to keep pretty like into a very small group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
keep it
Hope for
close
the
to the
growing.
best.
chest.
It's always with this kind of stuff, hope for the best, like, but plan for the worst, which is that one day someone's going to get mad about something dumb and is going to put meat spin on the AD2L Discord, hoping to get it banned. Sorry, on the AD2L like Twitch,
What's
hoping to get it
meat
banned.
spin?
Shut up. They're gonna put something offensive on in the hope of the channel gets completely banned out, and then the channel is just kicked from the entirety of it. And that, like, depending on it, like, the more people you give access to the stream to, the more risk there is. Period.
Right.
And, like, what do you do then, right? Like, the only thing that I can think of, like, I don't know enough about Twitch here, so like, this is again, like, Greco, going back to what you were saying, we're speaking a little bit out of our depth. Like, you'd have to look at changing the password for every single time someone is on the cast, right? Because that's the only way you can make sure they only have access to it for that amount of time. Do you know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah, I get you. I do want to kind of bring it to how would you define a trusted caster in AD2L? If the league decides to go with this route and wants to do a, like, say, I'll bring up Zen for example again just because I like the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if Zen, like, Zen is, I think we could all say, a trusted caster within AD2L,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
agree.
But how would you describe what a trusted caster is? And how would AD2L, or how should AD2L define what a trusted caster is?
So I don't think there's any like fast track to becoming a trusted caster. I think there's a mix of consistency, production value, and making sure that like this caster's kind of beliefs, like they're not just sitting there belittling players for making mistakes. Like they fit the spirit of the league, and then obviously, all our admins are quite knowledgeable. They've watched professional Dota. They know what good casts look like. And then from there, they're able to pull, being like, hey, I've noticed, 123XX_420 sniped your mom, is having great casts, you know, and then reach out to them and like build that kind of rapport, right?
So, with that being said, at what point would someone who's new that is coming into the league become a quote unquote trusted caster? So, for example, Staged came in season 28, I want to say. Yes, season 28. And we were introduced to him during our Backwoods versus Pot of Greed matchup in the upper brackets semi, or actually there was no upper lower bracket, just the semifinals.
Say backwoods
And
or frontwoods at the time?
it was Backwoods at the time. It turned to
Okay,
Frontwoods when they went to it
gotcha.
immediately
Yeah.
the next season. A little Dota trivia, if you may. Um, so he was new, but we instantly realized the quality in his cast to the point where we asked, "Hey, do you just want to follow us the entire next season and do our grand finals?" So of course he said yes, and then turned into a big uh, kind of person or big caster within our league. So at what point, is there like a specific timeline? Do you think they have to have some community involvement, a certain amount of followers or subscribers, or like constant viewership in order to become a trusted caster? How would that look for somebody who's new to become one of those guys who, well, gets on that AD2L stream?
You gotta have had some stake in the game. Like, not so much stake, I guess is the wrong word for that, but you have to have been in this community for a bit. At least enough to show, like, hey, you care not to just get on stream and, like, just badmouth this and try to get the stream banned, and that you are a stable person who's not going to lose their mind over, say, like, hey, we didn't go with you this week, and get super insulted about it. You have to have done enough streams to where people just naturally associate you with, like, somebody that's in the community and have, exactly like you said, community involvement, right?
Sure.
And I think having higher production value will naturally get you there faster.
Oh yeah.
Like if somebody came in and they just had they had a stage in their like at their place and they had like cameras and they were cutting, and it was like it looked like a major. Like they're gonna fast track their way to getting on the official channel. Like that's just the way it would go. So
Absolutely.
like,
I would
there's
agree.
definitely like a case by case basis, and there's no hard and fast rule. I think for how it gets done.
There's also the idea of integrity too. Like the stream key is important and something that you don't want to just give out to anybody and everybody. So you have to understand the integrity of the person and get to know them a little bit and make sure they're not going to basically steal your channel. You know what I mean? I don't know much about how all that stuff works. I don't know if you can eventually change the stream key. I don't really understand that.
For all we know,
Um,
we're completely talking about a problem that isn't even a
yeah,
problem, right?
I'm a very basic bitch when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I know nothing.
But it's something, yeah, like you said, it could be a problem, could not be a problem. But I do think that the integrity of it a little bit as well, in the sense of you want to make sure that they're professional and they're not going to come onto your stream and then start uh bashing AD2L like on their whole cast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something definitely to be thinking of. And the other idea is, does this become a popularity contest where maybe someone's production value is really, really low, but the community really likes them? So maybe like, or just as loud in the community. I don't even want to say the community likes them, but just loud in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is this something where, oh, well, this person's always talking and I'm friends with them, so they should be on it when there's significantly more people are more qualified? Do you think that would be a problem of it becoming a popularity contest?
I think that's streaming, period, if I'm completely honest with you. I think that that is just simply how it works. You can have somebody who has complete crap production quality, but at the end of the day, if it's about who's got the more viewers and who people want to see more, right? Like production quality doesn't guarantee you a position anywhere. Like a guy can blow $500,000 a year on his stream and only get 100 viewers max for the year, and he could be spending the most on production of anybody else in Twitch.
Well, let me rephrase this.
Hmm?
What if that person's shit? Like the person's just loud in the community, but his cast are shit.
I mean, I think this comes down to like the admin decision, right? Like I at least how I envision this working is the admins at the end of the day have the final say on who's going to cast what game. And the community kind of votes to see what game they kind of want or however it'll play out, right? Like we pitched a bunch of different ideas, but um unless the admins are just going to be like incredibly biased and put their friends in there, which then we'd also have an issue with how our tickets being handled. Um I think we just have to have faith in the admins to make the proper calls.
That's fair. That's very fair. So let's get to kind of our final point is we kind of talked about how this could be divided up into a week by week standpoint in different leagues and things like that. But is this something that the league should view week by week, starting in groups, or something that you believe should go to playoffs and maybe do a play of the week in the playoffs and then leading into the finals?
If you're talking about priority of what's most important, absolutely, it would be better to have obviously casters ready and willing to do it in the group stage and grand finals area. But I still have the opinion that AD2L as a community needs to focus on getting more viewership, more in the spotlight, generating more following. Period, to which point I always go back to my main thing. The more time you stream, the more time you're up, the more time the channel is operating, the more likely we are to pick up more viewers, pick up more players, pick up more teams. So to me, it's get it every week if you can. Started groups, just get people watching, get people involved, and make it interesting, right? Even week one,
Sure.
everybody just likes to have fun, right? Even if it's just a mess around game where people are just kind of figuring their stuff out, it's still fun.
And someone brought up the point of creating more effort the closer to the grand finals. And I don't want to say bad production value, but let's say like somebody is just casting a game. Okay. Um, all you see is the caster, their stream, things like that, no panel. Maybe towards playoffs, the semifinals, the finals, then getting the caster or getting the whole panel and stuff like that, and putting more effort in that sense going towards the grand finals. Do you think this should be done kind of towards the ass end of the league, or do you think this should be done kind of sooner from the start? I guess we're
So
going back to that whole panel question. Is it something that they should look at?
so there's two things I want to address here. One is as we get closer to the grand finals, less and less games are being played per week, which means at a certain point there becomes more available casters than there are games. And so for the most part, you usually don't have two casters casting a game, like two different groups of casters. You'll usually have one caster, and for the most part, I would say the better caster will win out. And if both uh, two casters decide to cover the same game, the better caster is going to have the views. And so I think naturally, as we get closer to the grand finals, the production value will just increase by nature of the better casters are casting the games. Not to throw shade at, more amateur casters, but that's just the way it goes. And then the one other thing I wanted to address is it's kind of relevant. Streaming your own perspective in a league game is cringe. Stop being a plink. And that's basically me. I'm done.
Especially when you're not doing it on a delay.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I've seen it. I have seen it, and I'm like, you are just, I don't know what you're doing, bud.
Jamie,
but
I'm
that's
calling
bad.
you out. It's a stupid thing. Stop it.
Oh, we're not going to
You'd
get
be
into
against the
that
rules.
too
No, I'm
much.
calling you in, Jamie. You're done. No more.
Well, for other reasons, that's not allowed anymore. So we'll maybe talk about that at a later point. If you're up to date on the recent news in AD2L. I guess the last bit is once we get into the finals and we get into the playoffs and we start bringing in the higher production value, maybe the panels and things like that. Is this when you think that maybe like this is the point that you should pay, or that they should get paid? Advertise on Reddit or any other avenues in order to increase the amount of viewers, and then throw bones there and maybe do like a almost like a tryout throughout the season.
I mean, I
Do I
feel like
need to
that's,
elaborate more on that?
yeah, I mean, I think that's just something that, like, is natural, right? Like, we're talking, I want to relate this almost back to the thing we're talking about of bringing in, like, pro-ish casters, right? Like, Dream being OD Pixel, but we can obviously have, like, a couple B tier or C tier casters people still know. You should be following and working on it, and it shouldn't be just, maybe just Mr. Popular. It's who does the admin staff feel deserves the spot of casting with that person, which kind of goes into the whole thing of like, yeah, the more production value, the better off you are throughout the season, and the more energy you put into it, great. Um, but my thing is ultimately that like your goal should be like if you give people this goal of like, hey, if you cast a lot and you do good production quality a lot and you put work into it, you can be the person who casts your leagues or wherever you are's game, or maybe just any league's game, with Sayori, with ODPixel, with Slacks, like, whoever talent we can convince to show up for a best of 5. Like that's the motivation for a caster almost, like on a non-monetary sub, like excrement basis, like what's the word, payment basis. Just, I want to cast with a pro because that sounds like a cool ass thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And with that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching and listening in to us and just kind of talk about random stuff. We had a ton of fun reading back through the feedback and different points that were brought up, and we encourage that. If you liked kind of the stuff that we talked about, put it in the AD2L feedback channel. Let's get it actually in like a little bit more of a discussion, and then we can build off that. And it's great for us because we love talking about it as well. But like I said, thank you very much for listening in. And that's a wrap for us.
Bye.
Bye.